Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pep Talk. Today, we're going to be discussing the latest updates coming from Ukraine and Russia, what is happening over there, what the prediction is by many of the experts on this, on foreign policy, what they think is going to be happening, how this is going to end. We're going to be covering that today. We're also going to be covering the New York Times confirming the Hunter Biden story, which was regarded as Russian disinformation over 2 years ago, right before the presidential election of 2020, and more. So thank you so much for watching Pep Talk. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Pep Talk. So first, let's talk about Russia and Ukraine. That's the most pressing thing at the moment, and I want y'all to be able to know what's going on over there. So as of right now, Russia is assaulting Mariupol, another city in Ukraine. From the New York Times, quote, into the fourth week of the Russian assault on the country, the coastal city, a strategic port that would give Russia control over much of Ukraine's southern coast, has increasingly become a grim symbol of Russian frustration that its superior manpower and weaponry have not forced the quick capitulation of the country. And it has come to symbolize Russia's brutality, with its forces increasingly targeting civilian sites with long-range missiles to crush the public spirit and break the Ukrainian military resistance. End quote. So from that paragraph there, you can see that Russia is targeting the city of Mariupol and it's targeting Kiva. It's essentially, one is getting upset. Putin is getting upset at the fact that he isn't winning as fast as he might have, because Russia was thought to be this incredibly powerful military presence in the world, and yet it's not able to conquer Ukraine. It's been several weeks since this invasion has started, and yet they are facing significant resistance from the Ukrainian people, and this was not to be expected, and it's just going to show that Russia is not in a great place right now. And to deal with that, Russia is simply racking up the damage it's causing to civilians, and it is, as the paragraph said, shooting long-range missiles to crush the public spirit and killing civilians left and right, not caring about the fact that they are civilians and non-combatants. Furthermore, with the paragraph, quote, the city has been without food, water, electricity, or gas since the early days after the February 24th invasion, but its situation deteriorated even more over the weekend, with reports of raging street battles and Russian forces successfully conquering 3 neighborhoods, end quote. So the city has been, as the New York Times article stated, without food, without water, without electricity or gas since February 24th. So this city has been shut down basically from everything. They don't have the resources they need, and Russia is just making it horrible for the citizens to live in the city, disregarding the fact that these are not soldiers, these are not people fighting, these are people that are simple civilians like you and me living in the city. Yet they don't care about that. They are wanting to kill them and trying to obtain victory in any way they can. And it is just showing the rest of the world how evil and how awful Putin and the Russian regime is at the moment. Furthermore, according to the New York Times, another article, quote, Ukrainian officials said on Sunday that an attack by a Russian tank on a home for the elderly in a town called Crimea in eastern Ukraine's Lushenka region had killed 56 people on March 11th, end quote. So, as I already said, Russia is trying to obtain victory in any way it can. It is frustrated by the fact that it has not been able to successfully invade Ukraine as quickly as it might have thought, and in order to deal with that, they are targeting civilians more heavily. They are literally using their own tanks to target elderly homes. These people, these old people, just, obviously that are non-combatants, killing them left and right just in order to get rid of the frustration about the fact that they're not winning. And it's frustrating to see that. It's very frustrating and it's deplorable. There's no new progress towards peace either. There have been continued negotiations, and despite that, there is no peaceful resolution that is foreseen at the moment. Quote, despite 4 days of negotiations last week between Ukraine and Russia, there were little indication of progress toward peace. Still, President Zelensky of Ukraine reiterated his desire to engage diplomatically with the Russians, telling CNN on Sunday that without negotiations, we cannot end this war, end quote. So basically, the latest update with Russia and Ukraine right now is that there are continued negotiations between both of them, yet there is no peaceful end in sight for this invasion. Zelensky is asking for more Western aid, but no one is really wanting to do anything substantial. We are giving him a lot of money. We're giving him a lot of troops. We're giving him a lot of military weapons and fighter jets and things of that sort, but we are not actually intervening in the conflict ourselves. We are not going to be implementing a no-fly zone, even though Zelensky has asked repeatedly for the West to implement a no-fly zone. But we just don't want to engage in that because of a fear of a nuclear war with Russia. That is why NATO has not attacked Russia. That is why no other country is really supporting Ukraine and a direct response against Russia, because there is not a desire to have a World War III on our hands. With that, Zelensky's also asking Israel for a lot of help, and Israel is kind of being hesitant to help because it has its own reasons. There are a lot of things to go with that, but essentially Zelensky is asking for help, and he is getting it to a certain degree, but not exactly the way he wants it. And that's just how it is right now. States don't want this to end up as a third world war. And what does that leave us? Where does that leave us? What's going to be happening? Well, a lot of strategists and foreign relations experts essentially are saying that, well, Russia isn't as powerful as everyone thought, apparently. They are not being able to invade Ukraine as anticipated. They're facing a lot of resistance, and that is something that no one really saw. And Russia actually might lose this thing. This might end up in a stalemate. And I don't know. No one really knows what's going to actually happen, but as of right now, a lot of foreign relations experts and strategists are saying that this might end in a stalemate, and Russia may not come out victorious. And we can only hope and pray that Ukraine will remain victorious, but we honestly don't know what's going to happen, especially with a leader like Putin, who has an ego as big as him. We have no idea what he'll do. But really, what's going on right now is we don't know. We don't see what Russia thought was going to happen. Russia is not doing as well as they thought was going to happen, and that's a good thing and possibly a scary thing, considering the fact that they might be forced to use chemical weapons, biological weapons, and in order to inflict more damage on civilians as they already have through using tanks to attack elderly homes, sending missiles on civilian population. It's crazy, but who knows what will happen. Hopefully this will be resolved quickly and as peacefully as possible, as soon as it can be. But that's the latest with Russia and Ukraine. I will keep you all updated every week as I can to keep you all updated on the situation over there, because it's very pressing at the moment. But this really raises the question about, the Western strength against invasions. We saw China has taken Hong Kong at this point. Russia took Crimea in 2014. The Taliban took over Afghanistan after we withdrew last year. And Russia might take over Ukraine. And then if they were to do that, would China take over Taiwan? There are a lot of questions and just a lot to think about regarding the West's idea on defending invasion of states and our foreign policy decisions. But that's just something I wanted to put up for you to think about. But another thing I want to talk about on a different subject is the Hunter Biden story and the laptop. So if you were in the news last week or last year, 2 years ago or so, when the presidential election was going on, there was a story published by the New York Post, and they tweeted out this link to an article saying that there was a laptop left by Hunter Biden at this computer repair shop in Delaware, which essentially had a lot of incriminating material on it that showed that he was essentially involved with the Ukrainian energy business, and he was making a lot of money over there using his father's name, and basically implying that there was a lot of corruption happening with him and his father being the vice president at the time with this Ukrainian energy company. But as soon as the New York Post published that story, Twitter shut it down. They actually took off the New York Post off of Twitter, saying that it violated its terms and conditions by disseminating misinformation. Everyone had called the story Russian disinformation and that it was fake and it was all made up and it was only to hurt the president or Biden's chance at winning the presidency. And so Facebook shut it down, Twitter shut it down, every social media site that you know of shut down the story because it was deemed Russian misinformation and not true. But 2 years later, according to the New York Times, quote, the New York Times has confirmed that the contents of a laptop belonging to President Biden's son, Hunter, are authentic more than 2 years after the story broke, end quote. So yeah, the New York Times has just confirmed that, oh yeah, that story that we all had said was false. Oh, that was actually true, which is very, very interesting. And I want to talk about the implications of that in just a minute, but let me keep going about what was actually found on the laptop. So according to the same article, quote, the laptop which Biden's son left in a Delaware repair shop contained a cache of emails relating to his business activities with various companies, including Burisma, a Ukrainian energy company on whose board he sat. Hunter Biden introduced his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, to a top executive at a Ukrainian energy firm less than a year before the elder Biden pressured government officials in Ukraine into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the company, according to emails obtained by the Post. End quote. So essentially, Hunter Biden, which is Joe Biden's son, was working at this Ukrainian energy company. He was on the board essentially because his name ended with Biden. And he was getting a lot of money from this company. And Joe Biden was apparently involved with this. And after they were getting involved, Vice President Joe Biden had prohibited this prosecutor from investigating corruption charges with this energy company. I'll reread the sentence here, but Hunter Biden introduced his father, then Vice President Joe Biden, to a top executive at a Ukrainian energy firm less than a year before the elder Biden pressured government officials in Ukraine into firing a prosecutor who was investigating the company. So Vice President Biden, who had his son working at the company, pressured a prosecutor investigating the company to be fired. So if that doesn't raise an eyebrow, I don't know what does. But I'm going to continue on with the story just to get a better idea of what's going on. Quote, the never-before-revealed meeting is mentioned in the message of appreciation that Vadim Pojarsky, an advisor to the board of Burisma, allegedly sent Hunter Biden on April 17, 2015, about a year after Hunter joined the Burisma board at a reported salary of up to $50,000 a month. Less than 8 months after Pojarsky thanked Hunter Biden for the introduction to his dad, the then vice president immediately pressured Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko and President Minister Arsenij Yatsenyuk into getting rid of Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin by threatening to withhold a $1 billion U.S. loan guarantee during a December 2015 trip to Kyiv. So essentially, I might have mispronounced a lot of those names, and I apologize for that. But the main idea here, the main issue that needs to be looked at here is that Hunter Biden was working, he was sitting on a board of this energy company because his last name was Biden. He was getting his father involved with the company, and they were making a lot of money from this company. And with Biden being vice president, he had the power to get a prosecutor looking into corruption charges at the company fired in order to keep his investment safe, essentially, which is corruption at the very least. And yeah, this whole story was marked as Russian disinformation, or was marked as false, and came out that it wasn't. And so it just really makes you wonder, how much power do these social media websites have to essentially mark what is and what isn't the truth? It's a lot to think about, and I don't really want to get into it a lot here because it's a lot to talk about, but it is something for you to think about on your own time, that I certainly will be thinking about and will hopefully have an answer to sooner or later. But I'd like to end off today by showing you this video where President Biden, he was giving an address, and he says this weird quote. He says, the husband of the first lady got COVID, which is interesting because he's the husband of the first lady, but it seems like he's kind of forgotten that maybe he doesn't know that he's talking about himself. And you might think that, oh no, he knows. And it's like, well, actually, if you watch the video I'm going to show you, an aide has to interrupt him, and then he looks over and it's like, what are you saying? And he goes, oh yeah, I'm talking about meat, by the way. Like, it's crazy. I don't know. It's ridiculous, but here's the video.
His husband contracting COVID, but look at this room and what you see. Pardon? That's right. She's fine. It's me. That's not together. The second lady, the first gentleman. How about that?
There you go. So, yeah. I don't know what to say about that other than, it speaks for itself. Yeah, we got 2 more years. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to keep you all updated with Russia and Ukraine and all the other current events going on. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I apologize for the scanty scheduling and all that. I just have been incredibly busy with school and extracurriculars and all that, but I'm going to be trying to get more consistent with the uploads and up the production quality. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week on Pep Talk. Bye-bye, everybody.